Picture this. At her father's 60th birthday, Savannah Cole stepped forward with a small handmade gift, her heart pounding with love. But in front of dozens of guests and a live stream watched by strangers, her sister snatched it, hurled it into the grass, and called her a cheapskate. Laughter erupted, whispers cut like knives, and humiliation crushed her spirit until the box was opened. Inside wasn't trash. It was a $25 million trust that could change their family's future forever. In one shocking twist, the humiliated outcast became the most powerful voice in the room. Stay with me, because what happened next will make you question everything you thought you knew about family, loyalty, and betrayal. The air in Austin felt different the moment I stepped off the plane. It wasn't the dry Texas heat I had grown up with, the kind that clung to your skin and made the horizon shimmer like a mirage. No, it was the strange cocktail of nostalgia and dread swirling inside me. After nearly a decade away, I was back, suitcase in hand, for one reason only: my father's 60th birthday. I told myself this was supposed to be a reunion. A night filled with laughter, smoky barbecue drifting through the air, old friends clapping my back, and my parents smiling proudly. A chance to press reset, to finally stitch together the torn fabric of our family. I even imagined my older sister, Lauren Hayes, welcoming me with open arms, forgetting all the petty rivalries of the past. I clung to that hope like a lifeline, even though I knew better. The ranch house looked exactly as I remembered: weathered wood siding, a wide porch with rocking chairs, string lights already draped across the backyard in preparation for the party. It was a picture out of a Texas postcard, warm and inviting, almost cruel in its ability to hide the fractures inside. I stood there for a moment in the gravel driveway, my rental sedan cooling behind me, staring at the house that had once been my entire world. In my hand, I carried a small, handmade paper box. Hours of folding and refolding in my Seattle apartment, making sure every crease was perfect, every corner sharp. To anyone else, it might look like a child's art project, delicate, fragile, unimpressive. But to me, it held something priceless. A trust agreement worth more than anyone in that backyard could imagine. My years in tech hadn't just given me a career, they'd built a fortune, and I wanted with every ounce of my heart to use it for my family. As I stepped into the backyard, the sounds of chatter and music washed over me. Country songs hummed from a portable speaker, blending with the clink of glasses and the sizzle of burgers on the grill. Guests were already gathered around picnic tables draped in checkered cloth, laughing, telling stories, slapping my father Richard on the back. My mother, Margaret, bustled around with her warm smile, offering lemonade and sweet tea to anyone within arm's reach. For a fleeting second, I believed my vision of a joyful reunion might actually come true. Then I saw Lauren. She stood in the center of it all, sparkling under the lanterns in a sequin dress that caught every glint of light. Ethan Brooks, her ever-smug boyfriend, hovered at her side in a tailored jacket far too polished for a backyard barbecue. Her laughter rang louder than the music, sharp and commanding, drawing people toward her like moths to a flame. It was the same as always: Lauren holding court, me watching from the shadows. When her eyes met mine, there was no warmth, no spark of recognition softened by time. Just that familiar glint, half amusement, half disdain. She tilted her head, smirk curling her lips as if to say, "Still the same Savannah. Still nothing special." My stomach tightened, but I forced a smile, lifting my free hand in a small wave. "Savannah!" my mother called, her voice breaking through the tension. She hurried over, apron already dotted with barbecue sauce, and wrapped me in a hug that smelled like smoke and rosemary. My father followed, his rough hands patting my back with a mixture of pride and relief. For a moment, cocooned in their embrace, the world felt safe again. I wanted to believe it would last. I slipped the paper box onto the gift table, tucking it between glittering bags and glossy packages wrapped in metallic paper. It looked small, almost pitiful among them, but I reminded myself that appearances didn't matter. The value inside couldn't be measured in ribbons or bows. I imagined Dad opening it later, his eyes widening, Mom's tears spilling over as they realized what it meant: security, freedom, peace. The thought steadied me. Across the yard, Lauren raised her glass of champagne, eyes never leaving me. She whispered something to Ethan, who smirked and gave a low chuckle. The sound drifted across the crowd, subtle but sharp, and suddenly the knot in my chest pulled tighter. I straightened my shoulders, inhaled deeply, and forced myself into the mingling guests. I shook hands, answered questions, laughed at old stories, even though every sound felt hollow. All the while, I kept one eye on the little paper box, my secret folded neatly inside, and prayed that tonight would be different, that maybe, just maybe, family could outweigh pride. But deep down, a part of me already knew. The night was only beginning, and the storm had yet to break. The party was in full swing when Lauren finally made her move. She had spent the first hour basking in attention, pulling guests into her orbit with stories about the condo she and Ethan had just bought downtown. I overheard snippets as I passed by: imported marble countertops, rooftop infinity pool, private wine cellar. Every detail was meant to dazzle, to impress, to remind everyone that she had made it. When she spotted me weaving through the crowd, balancing a paper plate piled with brisket and potato salad, her voice cut through the laughter like a blade. Well, well, look who decided to show up. Dozens of eyes shifted toward me. I forced a polite smile, nodded, and kept walking, hoping she'd leave it at that. But Lauren never left anything alone. She thrived on turning moments into performances. She sauntered forward, sequined dress glinting under the lanterns, Ethan trailing behind with that smirk permanently etched on his face. She stopped just close enough that the whole circle of guests could hear. Still driving rentals, Savannah? Her tone dripped with sugar and venom. Seattle must not be paying that well, huh? Heat rushed to my cheeks. I swallowed hard, reminding myself to stay calm. I like to keep things simple, I said lightly, trying to brush it off. But she wasn't done. She tilted her champagne glass, eyes scanning my worn jeans and sweater like a fashion critic dissecting a disaster. Simple is one word for it. Outdated might be another. A few people chuckled. Others shifted uncomfortably, suddenly fascinated by their drinks. Ethan leaned in with mock sympathy. Not everyone can keep up with Austin's scene, he added, his voice oozing with condescension. I felt the laughter ripple through me like static, prickling my skin. I wanted to vanish, to disappear into the shadows of the porch. But then I caught sight of my parents across the yard. Dad flipping burgers. Mom refilling cups, oblivious to the storm brewing. I clenched my jaw. I wouldn't ruin this night for them by lashing out. Lauren's friend Melanie pulled out her phone, pretending to snap a casual picture but angling it toward me. Oh, come on, Lauren, she giggled. Don't be mean. Lauren's smirk widened. I'm not being mean. I'm just saying, some of us put in effort, some of us don't. She let the words hang in the air like a bad smell. My pulse hammered in my ears. Every instinct screamed at me to fight back, to remind her of the sacrifices I'd made, the empire I'd built quietly in Seattle while she flashed her borrowed glamour. But I bit my tongue so hard it almost bled. If they saw the truth, it had to be in my own time, not as a desperate defense in the middle of her circus. I excused myself, slipping toward the drink table, pretending I needed more lemonade. But Lauren's laughter followed me, loud and triumphant, feeding off the discomfort of everyone around her. Margaret, my mother, caught me by the arm near the grill. You doing okay, sweetheart? Her eyes were kind, searching. I pasted on a smile. Just fine, Mom. Just happy to be here. She studied me for a moment, clearly unconvinced, before patting my hand and turning back to the guests. Dad gave me a quick nod, the kind that said, hang in there. But even their comfort couldn't drown out Lauren's voice drifting across the yard. Savannah's always been practical, she said loudly, the word laced with pity. She never aimed too high. A chorus of uneasy chuckles rose. Ethan added, yeah, some people just don't dream big. Their words stung more than I wanted to admit. Don't dream big. If only they knew the nights I'd spent coding until dawn, the pitches I'd given that no one believed in, the gamble that had turned into millions. My dreams had been bigger than they could ever imagine. I just didn't parade them in sequins and champagne. Still, the damage was done. I could feel the cracks forming, the old shame creeping back, the one that had followed me through childhood, always measured against Lauren's sparkle and charm. Here I was again, the butt of the joke, the shadow to her spotlight. But somewhere deep inside, beneath the humiliation, a spark flickered. I tightened my grip on the lemonade glass, forcing myself to breathe. The box on the gift table was still there, small and unassuming. They didn't know what it held. They didn't know what I held. Not yet. The night had been simmering like a pot about to boil over. I could feel it in the way Lauren's eyes kept darting toward the gift table, in the way Ethan whispered in her ear, grinning like a man who lived for someone else's downfall. The backyard lanterns glowed softly, but for me the air was heavy, pressing down until every breath felt like a struggle. I tried to stay busy passing out plates, helping Mom refill the sweet tea pitcher, laughing a little too loudly at Dad's old fishing stories. But no matter where I turned, Lauren's voice carried. Each jab she slipped into conversations was like a needle under my skin. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I ignored her, the night would pass without disaster. I was wrong. "Everyone, can I get your attention for a second?" Lauren's voice rang out suddenly, slicing through the chatter. She strode toward the gift table, sequins flashing like warning lights. Ethan followed close behind, already pulling out his phone like he was gearing up to record the show. I froze, plate of cornbread in hand, as every head turned toward her. Lauren plucked my small paper box from the pile of glossy bags and glittering ribbons, holding it high for all to see. "This," she announced, shaking it lightly, "is my dear sister Savannah's big contribution to Dad's 60th birthday." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some smiled politely, others leaned forward, curious. She tilted the box in her hand as if weighing it. "Doesn't feel like much, does it? Maybe a coupon book? A free hug?" Laughter broke out, scattered at first, then growing louder. Ethan leaned into the moment. "Looks like something you'd find at a thrift shop." My chest tightened, heat flooding my face. The box wasn't flashy. No, it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to mean everything. Before I could step forward, Lauren smirked, wound up her arm like she was pitching a softball, and tossed the box across the lawn. It landed with a dull thud in the grass, the carefully folded paper crumpling on impact. Gasps. A few shocked chuckles. And then, clear and sharp, Lauren's voice. "Cheapskate move, Savannah. Couldn't even buy a real gift?" The word echoed through the night like a slap. Cheapskate. Every sound seemed to drain out of the party. Glasses froze mid-clink. Conversations stilled. Dozens of eyes snapped toward me. Some were amused, others pitying, a few uncomfortable, but all of them burned like spotlights. I stood there, cornbread plate trembling in my hands, wishing the ground would open and swallow me whole. "Lauren, that's enough," Dad barked from the grill, his voice low but firm. He took a step forward, but Mom caught his arm, her eyes darting anxiously between us. Lauren laughed, tossing her hair back. "Oh, come on, Dad. I'm just teasing. If she can't handle a joke, that's not my problem." Though, Ethan crossed his arms, smug grin widening. "Some people just don't get it," he added, as though the humiliation wasn't already complete. And then came the glow of another phone. Melanie, grinning ear to ear, held her screen high. "Oh my God, this is gold," she whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear. Savannah's Cheapskate gift reveal, live on Instagram. The crowd erupted again, some laughing, some groaning, others shaking their heads. But the damage was done. The image of me, standing there in worn jeans and sneakers while my sister paraded my gift as a joke for the internet, was burned into their eyes forever. I wanted to scream, to run across the lawn and snatch the box back, to tell them all what was inside. But my throat locked, words strangled by humiliation. My body wouldn't move. I was frozen, a deer caught in the headlights of collective ridicule. Mom hurried to my side, her hand brushing my arm. "Don't listen to her," she whispered, voice trembling. But her comfort only made the tears sting hotter in my eyes. Lauren rolled her eyes dramatically. "Please, she's fine. Maybe next year she'll actually try." The crowd murmured, divided, some chuckling, others shifting uncomfortably. But all of them were watching me. Waiting. Judging. I swallowed hard, forcing my face into a mask of indifference even as my insides twisted. My gaze locked on the crumpled paper box lying in the grass, dirt smudging its once perfect folds. They didn't know what it held. They couldn't see the truth. But I did, and that truth burned in my chest, fueling a storm that would not be contained forever. This wasn't over. The backyard was no longer a party. It was a stage, and I was the unwilling actor under a cruel spotlight. Every lantern seemed to shine brighter, every laugh sharper, every whisper amplified until it felt like the night itself had turned against me. The paper box lay in the grass, its edges bent, a smear of dirt staining one corner. My chest tightened as I stared at it. That little box had carried years of sacrifice, long nights coding in a cramped Seattle apartment, rejections that left me hollow, victories I never celebrated because I wanted to keep them private. And now it lay discarded like trash, while my sister's laughter echoed through the yard. Around me, the silence grew heavy. People shifted in their seats, exchanged glances, leaned closer to murmur behind hands. Some smirked openly, as if my humiliation was entertainment. Others looked away quickly, unwilling to be caught staring at the family drama unraveling in real time. I tried to swallow, but my throat was too tight. My hands shook where they clutched the edge of the picnic table. I wanted to move, bend down, scoop up the box, hold it against my chest like a shield, but my legs were rooted, frozen by shame. "Pick it up, Lauren, and apologize to your sister." Dad's voice cut through the air, low and stern. His face was red, jaw clenched, the spatula in his hand trembling with barely contained anger. Lauren waved him off with a laugh. "Apologize for what? It's just a joke. Besides, she's always been too sensitive." "No." Mom stepped closer to me, her hand slipping around my shoulder. "Savannah, don't let it get to you," she whispered. Her voice was soft, pleading. I wanted to believe her, but the words barely touched the storm raging inside me. Ethan chuckled from the sidelines, arms crossed. Honestly, if that's all she brought, maybe the joke writes itself. A ripple of laughter followed, quick and cruel. I clenched my fists until my nails dug into my palms. My heart thudded painfully, each beat a reminder that I was standing in front of dozens of people, family, neighbors, old friends, all watching me shrink smaller and smaller. The live stream only made it worse. Melanie's phone was still up, her screen glowing as comments poured in. Snickers broke out when she read a few aloud. "Dollar store vibes. Cheap sister alert. Savannah the cheapskate." Each word landed like a stone in my stomach. My humiliation wasn't confined to this backyard anymore. It was spreading, digitized, and shared with strangers who would never know the truth. Tears burned hot at the corners of my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Crying here would give Lauren exactly what she wanted, proof that she had broken me. I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood, forcing the tears back, forcing myself to stand tall even as my soul caved inward. "Come on, y'all, lighten up," Lauren said, twirling her glass. If Savannah wanted to be taken seriously, she'd have brought something worth opening. The crowd shifted again. Some people laughed nervously. Others shook their heads, disapproving but silent. No one stepped in. No one stopped her. And that was the worst part. It wasn't just Lauren's words that crushed me, it was the complicity of everyone around her. The way they allowed her to humiliate me, the way their silence screamed louder than her insults. I stared at the ground, at the crumpled paper box half hidden in the grass. My whole body ached with the weight of it. That box wasn't just paper and ink. It was my heart, my love for my parents, my hope for reconciliation, my proof that I was more than the girl Lauren painted me to be. And in that moment, it lay abandoned, just like me. Mom's hand squeezed my shoulder, grounding me, but even her comfort couldn't stop the loneliness that wrapped around me like a noose. I wasn't just embarrassed. I was stripped bare, isolated, drowning in the shame of being seen as less glamorous, less successful, less worthy. I took a deep breath, my lungs trembling, and locked my eyes on the grass. "This isn't over," I told myself silently. "They don't know the truth yet. But they will." For now, though, I stayed silent. Silent as Lauren basked in the attention. Silent as the whispers spread like wildfire. Silent as the night pressed in, crushing me under the weight of judgment. I had never felt so small, so powerless, so utterly alone. For a long, suffocating moment, The only sound in the backyard was the low hum of the string lights buzzing against the night. My chest rose and fell in shallow breaths, my eyes locked on the box lying in the grass like a crushed bird. And then, heels clicking against the flagstone patio, Victoria Hayes stepped forward. To the others, she was just another guest in a sleek navy dress, her hair swept into a no-nonsense bun. But to me, she was more than that. She was my lawyer, my confidant, the one person in Seattle who had known the full scope of what I'd built. I had asked her to fly in quietly, to be present for this night, though I never expected she'd need to intervene. Now, with calm determination, she crossed the yard. Her stride wasn't rushed or frantic. It was deliberate, like she owned the very ground beneath her heels. Every conversation stilled as she bent down, plucked the crumpled paper box from the grass, and brushed it clean with one precise sweep of her hand. "Mind if I take a look, Savannah?" she asked, her voice steady but loud enough for the entire yard to hear. My throat was too tight to answer. I gave a small nod. Lauren laughed, her tone dripping with false amusement. "Oh, please. It's just a piece of trash. Why waste your time?" But her voice faltered when Victoria pulled out the folded document inside. The hush that fell over the crowd was electric. Charged with curiosity, Victoria unfolded the papers with the practiced hand of someone used to commanding a courtroom. She held them up beneath the glow of a lantern, scanning the lines before looking directly at the guests. "This," she announced, her voice ringing clear, "is a trust agreement." Gasps echoed through the backyard. People leaned closer, eyes widening. Victoria's gaze flicked briefly to Lauren before settling on my parents. "Savannah has established a trust worth $25 million. It is designed to erase Richard and Margaret Cole's debts, secure their retirement, and ensure stability for their family's future." The words hit the crowd like a thunderclap. I saw Dad's hands freeze midair, spatula still clutched tightly. Mom's mouth dropped open, her hand flying to her chest. Guests began to murmur, their tones shifting from amusement to disbelief. Lauren's smile collapsed. The color drained from her face as the reality of what she had mocked sank in. Ethan's smug smirk faltered, his eyes darting nervously between her and the papers in Victoria's hand. "This isn't pocket change," Victoria continued firmly. "It is the result of years of hard work, of sacrifices Savannah never flaunted, never bragged about. And tonight she intended to present it to her family with humility and love." The crowd was spellbound. Whispers cut through the silence like blades. "$25 million? She called her a cheapskate for that?" My God. Cameras that had been aimed at me moments before were now turning on Lauren, capturing her stunned expression, the way her sequins suddenly seemed gaudy under the harsh light of shame. Victoria flipped to a final page, her eyes locking with Lauren's. "Savannah holds the authority to amend this trust." Meaning, she paused, letting the words settle like stones at the bottom of a well. "She decides who benefits from it. And given the behavior displayed here tonight, certain individuals may find themselves excluded." The air shifted. Gasps turned to sharp whispers, judgmental eyes swinging toward Lauren. I heard someone mutter, "That's her own sister." Another hissed, "Unbelievable." Ethan shifted uncomfortably, tugging at his collar. Melanie lowered her phone slightly, no longer smiling as the comments on her live stream flooded in shocked emojis, furious words, strangers condemning Lauren's cruelty. I stood motionless, my heart pounding as I watched the reversal unfold. For the first time all night, I wasn't the spectacle. Lauren was. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked at me, desperation flickering behind her eyes, but I didn't move. The silence between us roared louder than any insult she had thrown. Victoria folded the documents neatly, slid them back into the box, and handed it to me. "It's your call, Savannah," she said quietly, but the whole backyard heard. I held the box against my chest, its weight heavier now, not just with paper, but with choice. My humiliation hadn't vanished. The sting of her laughter still lingered. But now the balance had shifted. The storm had broken, and for once I was standing in the eye of it, steady, unshaken, and holding the power she thought I never had. The air in the backyard shifted like a storm breaking open. Moments ago, every eye had been on me, their laughter pricking my skin like needles. Now, the spotlight had turned, and it scorched Lauren instead. A chorus of whispers surged through the guests. She called her a cheapskate? Unbelievable over a $25 million trust? Some people don't deserve family. Each comment landed like a slap, but not on me. They sliced into Lauren, stripping away the glossy armor she had built with sequins and champagne. Lauren's confident smirk was gone. Her face, usually poised and flawless, was crumbling in real time. She looked around the circle of guests, searching for sympathy, but found only judgment. Her cheeks flushed crimson, her lips trembling as if she wanted to protest but couldn't form the words. Ethan shifted uncomfortably beside her. He had always thrived on her spotlight, but now it burned too hot, too hostile. I watched as his smirk wilted into something tighter, more calculating. He slipped his phone into his pocket, avoiding the cameras that were still trained on them. And there were cameras. Oh, were there cameras? Melanie's live stream hadn't stopped. If anything, it had exploded. She clutched her phone with both hands, eyes wide as comments flooded the screen so quickly they blurred together. Shocked emojis. Fire icons. Furious words. This is what entitlement looks like. She humiliated her sister for this? Lauren Hayes equals cancelled. Somebody near me muttered, "It's already gone viral." The realization rippled through the crowd. People glanced at their own screens, phones buzzing with notifications as clips of the scene spread like wildfire. Hashtags popped up instantly. Number Cheapskate no more, and number Texas Trust Twist. The humiliation Lauren had intended for me was now immortalized and aimed squarely at her. Lauren tried to laugh, a high-pitched, brittle sound. "It was just a joke," she insisted, her voice cracking. "You're all overreacting." No one laughed with her. Instead, a neighbor shook her head, voice sharp enough to carry. "That wasn't a joke. That was cruelty." Another chimed in louder. "Who mocks their sister like that? In front of everyone?" The murmurs built into a wave of disapproval. Lauren's hands shook as she set her champagne flute down on the nearest table, the glass rattling against the wood. She turned to Ethan, eyes wide with silent pleading. But Ethan had already begun to distance himself. He slipped a step back, adjusting the cuff of his tailored jacket like he wasn't part of the spectacle. When Lauren touched his arm, he gently pulled away, forcing a strained smile. "Maybe we should, give them space," he mumbled, voice low. It was the first crack in their united front, and the crowd noticed. Melanie, pale now, lowered her phone completely. The realization of what she had broadcast live was sinking in. Her voice shook as she whispered to Lauren, "I didn't think it would blow up like this." Lauren spun on her, fury breaking through her mask. "You thought it was funny, didn't you? You made me look like a fool." Melanie shrank back, cheeks flushed, but no one defended her either. The tide had turned, and neither of them could stop it. Meanwhile, Dad stood taller than I'd seen in years, his arm around Mom's shoulders. Pride radiated from him, mixed with disappointment so sharp it cut through the air. "You embarrassed your sister, your family, and yourself," he said. Voice heavy with finality. Mom's eyes glistened with tears, but her voice was firm. "Savannah gave us the greatest gift a daughter could give. And you," she turned to Lauren, "you threw it in the dirt." The crowd murmured in agreement, their voices like a jury delivering its verdict. Lauren looked like she might collapse under the weight of it all. Her mascara smudged as she blinked furiously, shaking her head. "I didn't mean—" But the excuses sounded hollow. No one was listening. I stood silently, the box clutched tight in my hands. I hadn't spoken yet. I didn't need to. The truth had spoken for me. Across the lawn, Ethan pulled out his phone, scrolling rapidly. His jaw tightened. I didn't need to see the screen to know what he was looking at. Headlines, reposts, the internet already tearing Lauren apart. His hand slipped into his pocket, fingers curling around his car keys like he was considering an exit. Lauren saw it too. Panic flickered in her eyes. She grabbed his arm again, her voice breaking this time. "Don't you dare leave me right now." But he didn't answer. The tide had fully turned. The queen of the party had been dethroned. And nothing, no excuses, No desperate pleas could turn back the clock. For the first time all night, I inhaled deeply, my lungs filling without the weight of shame pressing down. The storm wasn't over, but the thunder was finally at someone else's back. The hum of voices swelled around me, a mix of shock, pity, and condemnation directed squarely at my sister. For the first time in my life, Lauren Hayes wasn't in control of the narrative, and she knew it. Her sequin dress glittered under the lanterns, but her composure had shattered. She pushed through the crowd, her heels sinking into the grass, with each frantic step until she was standing in front of me. The same sister who had mocked me only minutes ago now looked small, desperate. "Savannah, wait," she pleaded, her voice trembling, pitched low enough that only those closest could hear, though the yard was so hushed, everyone caught it anyway. Her eyes darted across the guests, then back to me, glistening with tears. "I didn't mean it. I was just joking. You know me, I get carried away sometimes." I stared at her, silent, letting the words hang in the air. "Joking?" The word felt like acid. "Joking?" I said finally, my voice low but steady. "Lauren, you've been tearing me down since the moment I stepped into this backyard." That wasn't a joke. That was jealousy. The crowd reacted audibly, a sharp inhale here, a soft murmur there. Lauren flinched, her lips parting as if to protest, but the words never came. She clasped her hands together, her voice cracking. "Please, Savannah, don't take me out of the trust. We're family. I need this. I need you. You can't just cut me out." Her desperation cut deeper than her insults had. For a moment, I saw not the glittering socialite but the girl I'd once shared a room with, whispering secrets under the covers. But then I remembered the look on her face when she threw my gift into the grass, the laughter that sliced me open while strangers recorded my humiliation. I shook my head slowly. "Family doesn't humiliate each other for laughs. You made your choice tonight." The tears on her cheeks glistened in the lantern light. She opened her mouth again, but before she could speak, Ethan stepped forward, seizing the silence like a salesman spotting an opening. "Savannah," he began smoothly, his voice syrupy with false charm. "Let's be reasonable. You've got a lot of money sitting in that trust. Imagine what we could do together. Investments, projects, growth. There's no need to cut Lauren out. We're stronger as a team." The audacity nearly made me laugh. He was already pivoting, trying to turn my generosity into his business plan. His opportunism reeked so strongly I could practically taste it in the air. I turned my gaze on him, sharp and unflinching. "Work together?" My voice rang louder now, carrying across the backyard. "You stood there while she mocked me, laughed while she humiliated me in front of everyone. And now you want to cut? I'm not interested." Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Ethan's forced smile faltered, his mask slipping. He stammered something about misunderstandings. But the damage was done. People shook their heads, their disdain as clear as the night sky above us. Lauren reached for my arm, her nails digging lightly into my sleeve. "Savannah, please, don't do this. I made a mistake. Everyone here knows I didn't mean it." But they didn't nod. They didn't affirm her excuse. Instead, I saw neighbors, family friends, colleagues of my parents, all watching with cold disapproval. The silence around us was judgment, and it weighed heavier than her grip. I gently pulled my arm free. "This isn't about one mistake. It's about years of them. Tonight was just the loudest." Her face crumpled, and for a flicker of a moment, guilt pierced me. But it was fleeting. I had given her chance after chance, and every time, she had chosen pride over love. The box in my hands felt heavier, but also steadier. I looked at her one last time. "I'm only supporting Mom and Dad. That's my decision. And it's final." Lauren's knees buckled, and she stumbled back. Ethan didn't catch her. He was already retreating, his eyes on his phone, likely calculating how to salvage his own reputation from the ashes of hers. The crowd erupted in low conversation, some shaking their heads, others whispering about what they'd just witnessed. Phones buzzed as the live stream's comments poured in, each one a fresh wave of condemnation for Lauren and Ethan. I didn't bask in the victory, It didn't feel like triumph. It felt like closure. I turned away, holding the box close, and for the first time all night, I felt taller not because I had humiliated anyone, but because I had finally refused to let them humiliate me. The party didn't end with music or laughter. It ended with whispers, the shuffle of uneasy guests slipping out early, and the echo of Lauren's sobs carrying across the lawn. By the time the last car rolled down the gravel driveway, she was sitting alone at one of the picnic tables, sequins dulled, mascara streaked like ink across her cheeks. Ethan was gone. He'd slipped away quietly after our confrontation, muttering something about an early meeting. I doubted she'd hear from him again. Her friend Melanie had vanished too, retreating once the reality of her live stream hit her. The video was everywhere now, clipped, reposted, dissected. By the time the lanterns were turned off, the hashtags were trending, number Cheapskate no more, and number Lauren exposed. I didn't check my phone, but I didn't need to. Every buzz in my pocket was proof that the internet had claimed the story as its own. My humiliation had been flipped on its head, but so had Lauren's carefully constructed image, and unlike mine, hers had nothing solid underneath it. Inside the house, Mom sat me down at the kitchen table, her hand clasped over mine, her eyes glassy with emotion. Dad stood behind her, arms crossed, his voice thick when he finally spoke. "You didn't have to do this, kid," he said, "but we're proud of you, more than you'll ever know." I swallowed hard, fighting back tears. It was never about the money. I just wanted you both to feel safe, to stop worrying about bills, about the future. Mom's lips trembled into a smile. "We never doubted your heart, Savannah. Not once." It was the first time in years I felt seen by them, not as the quiet daughter, the practical one, the afterthought, but as someone who mattered. The following weeks unfolded like an avalanche. Lauren's name became a punchline in local gossip circles. Invitations to luncheons, charity galas, and influencer mixers dried up overnight. Friends she had flaunted on Instagram stopped answering her calls. Pictures that once drew hearts and fire emojis were now flooded with comments calling her ungrateful, cruel, heartless. Ethan left her completely. Word spread that he had packed up his things and moved out of the condo, chasing new prospects in Dallas. He had always been more in love with her status than with her, and once her shine dimmed, so did his interest. Financial trouble followed. Without access to the trust she thought she'd inherit, Lauren struggled to maintain her lavish lifestyle. The condo payments, the designer clothes, the endless shopping sprees, they all caught up quickly. I heard through neighbors that she had started selling off handbags and jewelry to cover the bills. The woman who once laughed at my simplicity now fought to hold on to the life she had flaunted. And me? I chose quiet. I moved into a modest apartment in downtown Austin. Nothing flashy, nothing grand. A place with secondhand furniture, a coffee pot that sputtered but worked, and a view of the skyline that reminded me of how far I had come. I continued coding for my projects, working late into the night not because I had to, but because I loved it. Every Sunday, I called Mom and Dad. Their voices were lighter now, free of the weight they had carried for so long. "The house is paid off," Mom said one evening, joy in her tone. "We're planning that trip to the Smoky Mountains we always dreamed about." Dad chimed in with a laugh about finally buying that fishing cabin he used to talk about but never thought he'd afford. Those calls were worth more than any headline, more than any viral clip. They were proof that I had done the right thing. Sometimes, late at night, I wondered if Lauren ever thought about what she had thrown away. If she regretted mocking me. If she replayed the moment she tossed that paper box into the grass. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. But it wasn't my burden anymore. I had given her a chance to share in something real, something lasting. She had chosen pride instead, and pride had cost her everything. One evening, as I sat on my balcony, the city lights twinkling like scattered stars, I let the night air fill my lungs. For the first time in years, I felt calm, not triumphant, not vindictive, just calm. The box, now safely locked away, wasn't just paper and ink. It was a reminder of who I was. Someone who had built something out of nothing. Someone who had endured humiliation and still chosen generosity. Someone who had learned that strength wasn't about revenge, it was about refusing to let cruelty define you. Lauren's chapter had closed in humiliation. Mine was just beginning.